Next, I would like to move on to Mr. Muhammad Yusrizki, Head of Renewable Energy Committee in Indonesia Chamber of Commerce and Industry, or KADIM, who is unfortunately not able to join us today. But worry not, we have received his statements about the role of KADIM in accelerating renewable energy implementation in Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, let's watch the message.
Good morning to our distinguished keynote speaker, Mr. Pahala Mansuri, Vice Minister of State-Owned Enterprises, and to speaker panel for today, Mr. Bijaksana Junior Rosano, CEO and founder of Waste for Change, Mr. Eka Himawan, Managing Director of Xurya, and Mr. Jeffrey Chatelier, CEO of Forest Carbon. And good morning also to all the participants attending this Earth Day webinar, both for those attending physically and remotely. My gratitude to PT Saratoga Investama Sudaya Tbk, its ventures, and Xurya that have invited Indonesian Chambers of Commerce, KADIM, to take part in this event. This year's Earth Day coincided with several series of Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC, 6 assessment reports, AR6. The first series was issued on August 2021, the second on February 2022, and the latest report from Third Working Group was issued currently on April 4, 2022. The report once again reminding us that the impact from climate change are felt across the globe. Most of us here are probably fortunate to not feeling the direct and harsh impact of climate change. Seawater, at least not erodes our front yard. Our food and water still come from reliable sources, and our works still provide us with meaningful compensation. But there are people, communities, who must deal with the harsh impact of climate change. IPCC Working Group second report on climate change, impact, adaptation, and vulnerability laid bare the hardship and the potential apocalypse on climate change. Only there are some substantial damages and increasingly irreversible losses in terrestrial, freshwater, and coastal and open ocean marine ecosystem. In other words, all of the landscapes humankind are living in. Furthermore, it is likely that the proportion of all terrestrial and freshwater species at very high risk extinction will reach 9% to maximum 14% at 1.5 degrees Celsius. This number rises to 10% to 18% at 2 degrees and 12 to 29% at 3 degrees Celsius. We are looking at approximately 3.3 to 3.6 billion people live in a context that are highly vulnerable to climate change. That is almost half of total Earth population today. Looking at that context, are we sure we ourselves are not part of that 3.3 to 3.6 billion people living with vulnerability? Just because we are not dealing with and facing with apparent vulnerabilities right now, doesn't mean we are not at risk. Our food will still come from reliable sources, but we will be at risk at certain point where the environment can no longer sustain the over-farming, over-fertilizing, and overfishing. Many of our comforts that we are taking for granted currently might very well be under threat now, if not sometimes in the future. Dear speaker and participants, this is the state of our world currently. These are the situations that we are dealing with. Not 50 years from now, not 5 years from now, not tomorrow, but currently, on this very second as we speak. The remaining question right now is not whether we are going into an apocalypse. We're sure we are going into one. But what are our efforts to minimize climate change impact and provide the next generation a better chance to improve the state of the world we are living in? Energy transition is one effort we can do to stop the world from declining worse from climate change impact. This is one area where myself, along with my organization, both through Kadin and through my business entities, as well as organizations like Saratoga Investama, East Ventures, and Suryadaya, can contribute. Energy transition does not exist in vacuum as an effort to mitigate climate change. As you go through this webinar today, you will hear the importance of waste management as well as nature-based solution as tools that we can leverage to lessen the impact from the climate change. And Indonesia is not alone in this effort. If we are talking about energy transition, specifically on renewable energy, I can consider Indonesia to be one of more fortunate countries. The technologies are there to be had. All the research, field tests, and concepts are already being done successfully elsewhere in the world. And we are here now to leverage the benefit of those who have worked on renewable energy before us. For sure, the landscape is still wide, and there's still uncharted technology to be deployed in the future. But what we have right now, be the form of solar power, wind power, and all the surrounding technologies and the business models are there. We just need to learn from it, have the drive and determination to learn from the mistakes others have made and leapfrog our development path. Renewable energy is the key to energy transition. If we take a step back through time, we will see that the ecosystem, the surrounding environment, be it regulatory, fiscal, financing, or business model environment, are developed around renewable energy and their unique characteristics. Some might say the solar and wind power are intermittent, that there will be days when the sun does not shine and the wind do not blow. Those characteristics are as sure as the sun rises from the east and sets on the west. But do we stop because of that? Do researchers, all the smartest brain in the world, stop developing solar and wind because of that? No. All the smartest brain in the world are researching despite those characteristics. Because of those characteristics, we now have the smart grid technology. The solution and infrastructure once primarily belong to electronics and information technology are being leveraged into power sectors. And the power sectors benefit from that. And ultimately, all of us as the consumers of power sectors. Energy transition is not only the domain of PLN as the Indonesia's most dominant power company, but it is also our domain as customers and business communities. Each of us must look very hard on our current energy usage and ask what we can do to contribute to lessen our emission footprint. For business communities, making choices to lower our emission, either using captive renewable energy generation or implementing energy efficiency measures, are sensible and important business decisions. In the right context, the right application, and the right mindset, reducing our emission footprint might also mean reducing our ongoing expenses, which improve the business profitability. And committing to reduce our emission footprint does not only come from our use of energy. There are many aspects in our business life cycle and value chain that can benefit from our commitment in emission reduction. And as with the energy, most of those choices can be a very good choices from business perspective. We must have a mindset that emission reduction is not cost, but an ongoing investment. Karya endorsed emission reduction effort from private sectors, acknowledging that private sectors has the same responsibility with our government in achieving Indonesian net zero emission target by 2060. Once again, I thank the organizer and wish you all a very good time throughout the webinar. Thank you very much.
Mr. Muhammad Yusrizki, Head of Renewable Energy Committee in Indonesian Chambers of Commerce and Industry. We have heard from him that he hopes more and more business leaders, initiatives, and communities working join hand in hand, creating concrete solutions to save our planet.